Dental Fuel, the podcast that focuses on what no one else is talking about: mistakes. The dental world is full of before and afters, and no one is talking about the middle. Dental Fuel brings you the unspoken in between. Dental Fuel is brought to you by 90 Day Jumpstart, a program to help you increase production and break free from financial stress. We are back with Dr. Chad Duplantis. Have you checked him out on Dinks yet? Chad shares with us a financial mistake he has made and the highs and lows of incorporating new technology in your practice. Let's tune in. I would love to know about a financial mistake that you've made, and I'm curious if any of those gadgets that you've purchased have led into this financial mistake that you'll share with us.
Well, you just hit the nail right on the head because yes. So in 2004, I was a young and dumb dentist that thought I knew everything. And I saw all of these dentists out there buying these scanning and milling units all in one. And I don't think I have to go too far. I don't want to really say the name because it has absolutely nothing to do with the brand or the technology that I bought. But we spent upwards of $100,000, I'm sorry, on a piece of equipment that we used in our practice for 3 years. Sold it 3 years later, and recouped about maybe 25% of what we bought in the hard cost. Of course, we had used it for 3 years. But in looking back, I can say that it wasn't the technology, it wasn't the team, it was the leadership, and that's me. It wasn't my partner. I bought it to alleviate or eliminate, is what I should say, a lab bill, which was the entirely wrong reason to buy it. I I thought that I would be providing cutting edge dentistry, but here's the problem that I ran into. It was not having the appropriate systems in place and not having the team on board to accept and run with the technology because they didn't understand my why. And as a matter of fact, I don't think I really understood my why, you know? And so, one of the things that I always say is that when you're incorporating technology, do your research, talk to your colleagues. I think sales reps are important, and I don't want to diminish the capabilities of any sales representative out there, but they're probably the last person you need to talk to because their job is to sell you the technology. You need to talk to your colleagues that have had successes and failures with the various technology that you're incorporating. You need to see what the technology does and how people are accomplishing that. And you really need to figure out why you need it and how it's going to fit into your practice. Once you've figured that out, your team needs to be involved in the decision making and understand why you're bringing that technology into your practice. And speaking from experience, if the team is not involved, it's going to fail. And you can't be a one person show. It has to be, the team has to embrace it. And we stayed away from big technological advancements for another 5 to 6 years. We dabbled here and there, but I made sure there was a good return policy if we didn't like it after 30 days, like for real. But 2012, 2013, 7 or 8 years after the initial mistake, we embraced technology and we haven't looked back since. And the entire team is on board. And we've done that with scanning, with milling, with printing, with lasers, with cameras, with everything that we bring into the office. The team is a part of that onboarding.
Do you bring your team into the conversation before you make a purchase, or is it more when you're bringing the technology in that you start having those conversations with your team?
Kind of and kind of not. And I say that kind of jokingly because as I embraced technology, I started speaking on technology and developing relationships, like deeper relationships with manufacturers and sales representatives and marketing people for the companies and stuff. So, like, I think the biggest frustration from my team is that, one day a piece of equipment shows up and it's, sometimes it'll sit in my office in a box for a while. Like, for instance, there was a laser that showed up like 3 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of scared to death to bring it out of the box because I knew that I needed to use it, but I was like, oh crap, I didn't tell them that this was coming and they're going to be upset. And, finally I just said, all right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to take the other laser, we're going to put it away, we're going to use this, and we're going to see how it goes, we're going to evaluate it. And they can tell within a few days whether or not we're going to purchase this technology, because the technology is not given to me. It's loaned to me for evaluation
Mm-hmm.
purposes on a lot of these items. And it ends up that they're having to pry it from my hands when it's time for me to purchase, because sometimes there's a lag period there where I don't have the technology.
Yeah.
So yes and no. If it's a bigger piece of technology, like, I say that jokingly. I mean, the laser was, in my opinion, a small piece of technology. But if it's a larger piece of technology, yes, they are involved in the decision making. Like, we're getting a new scanner, and this is why. Or maybe I should rephrase that. I think we're going to get a
Yeah.
new scanner, and this is why. And most of the time, since they've embraced it and they understand it, they're like, I think that's a good idea. So, yes and no would be the answer to that question.
I'd like to go back to something that was really key that you said that stood out, and something that I really love is that you didn't know your why. How did you come to find your why, and how have you built your practice around that and those who work with you?
Yeah. So once again, I didn't even know who Simon Sinek was until several years ago, and now I think I've got a major man crush on him. Don't tell my wife, but
Yeah, he's the man,
or,
man.
yeah, he is a cool dude. So for those of you that don't know what we're talking about, Simon Sinek wrote a book that's called Start with Why, and I think it really changed the way, not necessarily that I practice dentistry, but the way that I look at dentistry. And I will tell you that it really thwarted a decision off for me. Um, you know, I wanted a 3D printer, but I couldn't figure out why. I knew what
Hmm.
I was going to do with it. I know how I was going to use it. And I know that's kind of silly, but I couldn't figure out my why. And I realized when I read that book, okay, you got to hold off on this 3D printer until you figure out your why. And then, throughout COVID, it kind of came to me. And so I really didn't even think about my why until I read that book. And if you don't have it, I think it's less than $20 on Amazon, and everybody should get it. You can read it. I read it one afternoon sitting in the pool with a cocktail, and it really changed the way that I think about things. But that book really helped me focus on my why. And, whenever I lecture and I speak on technology, I tell everybody that they need to figure out their why. And I think that, one of the most amazing things that book said is that, and I'll translate it to the way that we would look at it in dentistry, is that people don't come to you because you do the best cleanings, or you have I mean, maybe they come to you because you have the best prices, but that you do the best crowns. They come to you because of your why. They don't buy what you do, they buy why you do what you do. And so I didn't know we'd get to this question, but I have mine written down, and basically our why is that we want to create a patient-centered environment that is caring, comfortable, and friendly, and provide the best quality dentistry that we can. And that's it in a nutshell. But I think it's really important that everybody, it's not necessarily your mission statement, but everybody needs to develop a why.
I echo the sentiment that you shared that I believe everyone should read the book. I think it's excellent. I think that it has transformed the way that I view a few things, life included. I feel like it's important to know, why you're doing things, and before you take something on, if it really fulfills what your why, what your own personal journey fulfillment really is. And so I think that it's a really transformative book, and it's an easy read, like you mentioned. And so I would really recommend everyone to read it. But going back to the why that you just shared, how did you come up with that, or is that something that you came up together with a team, with your team?
Well, I came up with it because I felt that, we shared it with them. I mean, everybody saw it, and we've talked about our why after reading that book. But I shared the why with the team and had their input as to um, whether or not they agreed with that. And I can't remember if we made minor tweaks to it, but everybody was pretty on board with like, yeah, that's us. That's our why. That's why we do what we do.
So is your why different than your mission?
Yes, it is. And I can't recite my mission to you right now. I'd have to look at it. But yes, my
Yeah,
why
okay.
is different than my mission, but they go hand in hand.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like the why is this and the mission's like totally freaking different, but they go hand
Right.
in hand. Yeah, and our mission statement we did come up with collectively. I think at the time I was the only person who had read Start with Why, and so my business partner and I kind of went over with what I wrote down, but the mission statement he and I came up with together when we formed the practice, and I think we've held true to it over the years.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Dental Fuel. Be sure to tune in next week where Chad shares his wisdom in building a team and some team mistakes that he's encountered. Be sure to follow Chad Duplantis on Instagram, toothtalk_dupe. You can also find him every Wednesday night with Dentists in the Know. Be sure to follow them on their Facebook page and listen to their podcast on all major platforms. You can also follow them on Instagram at Dentists in the Know. Are you a dental associate? Do you feel overwhelmed by your debt? Wondering if this whole dental journey is worth it? There's a better way. Introducing the 90-day Jumpstart program. We'll show you how to grow 90K in 90 days. You work so hard to be here and you deserve it. Be sure to check it out on ignitedds.com.